For the next several sections, the remainder of this chapter, I want you to use a small, simple calculator to do your multiplication and division with. We've been talking about percents. Remember the definition of a percent. A percent means out of 100, or a part of a whole. A part of the whole thing. All right, so let's think about that as we go through this diagram here. A part of a whole. In this diagram, the part represents the percent. The whole represents the 100. And then I've given you a little formula that you're going to use to set up the problems that we're doing as a proportion. The is represents the part. The of represents the whole. And this will help you in setting up your problems correctly. In number 1 here, when we solve these, we always want to write a proportion. We know that 100 is always on the bottom here because that is the bottom of our percent. Our percent number will go above the 100. Okay, so if our question says find 5% of $115, 5 is our percent. So whatever number is our percent goes above the 100. Then it says of $115. That would be this right here, the of. $115 is our total, and we want to find this 5% of that $115. Okay, once you have your proportions set up, the rest is very simple to do on your calculator. You're going to cross multiply, or the little heart problem method that I taught you, where you multiply the two numbers top and bottom that you have, so 115 times 5, and then divide by your 100. And then what do you get after you do that with your calculator? Remember, this is a money problem, so we're going to put dollars. You should get $5.75. And always put your variable for these. Okay, let's try a word problem. If we gave an additional, cross out my D here, 2.5% above the tithe, which is 10%, we would be giving 12.5%. Okay, think about that. If you give 2.5% above 10%, now you're giving 12.5. All right, so this is what's important here. Find 12.5% of 4,500. So let's set up our proportion. Always have this written out. Your 100 goes here. 12.5 is our percent. And let's go ahead and write that as a decimal. Just makes it more simple to put in our calculator. Of 4,500. So of is on the bottom. All right, so now that we have our problem set up, take your calculator, cross multiply. Multiply bottom to top, the two numbers that you have, and then divide by your 100. So n equals, let's put our variable in there, n equals, and your dollar amount, you get 562.5. But make sure you put a 0 on here so that it's in the correct form of money. Okay, let's try a couple more simple problems. Set up our proportion. I'm going to go ahead and write that on both of these just so I'd get a little bit ahead. If 160 is increased by 25%, by how much is it increased? All right, 25%, that's our percent. That's easy. 160, would that represent the part or the whole? If we have 160 and then we increase it, okay, what do we start with? We started with 160, so that represents our 100, our whole amount. All right, so n goes in the top position. Now we cross multiply. Don't want you to confuse your arrows. 160 times 25 and divided by 100. So what did you get for that one? N equals 40. So this would be like if you had a little job and you worked all week. In 1 week you made $160. And the next week you increase that amount by 25%. Let's say you work more, you get $40 more. Okay? All right, number 4. If 200 is decreased, all right, let's set up our problem by 10%. By how much is it decreased? Okay, 200 is what we start with. It's our original amount. So that goes there on the bottom. N goes on top. Go ahead and do your cross multiplication. 200 times 10 divided by 100. And what does N equal? Work it out with your calculator. And 20. Excellent. Okay, a couple more problems we're going to work out. These are very simple problems. We're going to use our proportions to do each one of these. So let's go ahead and just set up our little form right here. We can even go ahead and write in our 100. All right, read your question. This is where this is over of equals percent over 100 will really help you with these types of questions. It's asking what percent. That means I don't know the percent. So that's where my variable is going to go. See, that makes it kind of obvious. What percent? I don't know the percent. Of 12, so of is 12, is 16. All right, so it very clearly stated where to put each number if we know that little formula I gave you. All right, so when we cross multiply, remember we multiply the two numbers that we know. 16 times 100 divided by 12. So it went a little bit differently this time. Then we divide by 12 and N equals, what did you get for that one? Remember it's a percent, kind of a different answer. 133.3 repeating. So put a bar over your last 3 and your percent sign. So you can have repeating decimals on percents. All right, I want you to pause the video and go ahead and do numbers 6 and 7 on your own, and then turn the video back on. All right, number 6 was similar to number 5. We don't know the percent. We have 108 is what percent of 150? So we set it up like this, and once you multiply it out, you should have gotten 72 for your answer. And then number 7, what percent again? So N in the percent place of 144 is 24. And it really does help to circle the parts of your problem. Just helps you keep everything organized. So then we cross multiply 24 times 100 divided by 144, and N equals 16.6 with a bar percent. All right, go over these. Make sure you're clear on our little formula that I gave you and your understanding of what a percent is.